And a very pleasant good afternoon as we welcome you into the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show, and coming to you from Quaker Steak and Lube here in beautiful State College as we roll toward the postseason, dear Goon, for Penn State basketball, hockey, and wrestling. Big win for the Nittany Lion basketball team, and hopefully step one of our scenario
Correct.
played out. Need to get another road win, and then need to take care of business here at home, which is not going to be easily done either. Two big games here with Rutgers and Maryland remaining
at home
at the BJC.
Yes, and then you're an Ohio State fan this Thursday, I think. I mean, you're a huge Ohio State fan. Big game. What they did is what they had to do. You know what I mean? And that's what you sort of got a love and respect about this team is like, you know, they bring you back in a lot, don't they? It's like, okay, all right, we're back on track and this and that. You know as well as I do, that's not an easy place to play.
That is for sure.
It never has been. It's not an easy place to wrestle, not an easy place to do anything in out there. I mean, it's like, what do they call it, the barn? Minnesota?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Saturday night, 9 o'clock Eastern time. You know, there was some libations flowing before that game, so you know it was pretty loud out there, and they took the crowd right out of it is what they did.
They did. And Jalen Pickett I mean, if anything, has taken this game to another level. I'm not exactly sure how that's even possible, but, I mean, he really is putting this team on his shoulders right now and trying to carry it to the finish line.
Yeah, I mean, he won the ESPN, the National Player of the Week is what Jalen Pickett won last week. I mean, that's never happened to a Penn State basketball player ever. I'm sure of that. I mean, right? I mean,
yeah, and it's one of those things. I mean, I won't say that you've wasted his talent if you don't get to the NCAA tournament, but man, if you don't get there with him, Goon, like I don't know. I don't want to overstate the situation, but man, you have a guy that is, you know what one of the probably he probably is going to get All-American honors as first, second, or third team.
That's the question,
right? Like, so I mean,
so
you have a top 15 talent. You've got to, and it's not like they're devoid of talent around him. You have to cash in on that. I mean, there's just, and I think they're playing with that sense of urgency, and I think they obviously understand the situation and what it's going to take now. And it's going to take a lot still, but it is in front of them, and it is there for the taking if they are able to go out and capitalize. Yeah,
right. Would you say that? I mean, it's up to them because I don't think
to a large degree,
Rutgers is they're down a little bit with the kid being out, their star player being out, so they are beatable now. They are playing well as a team. Rutgers
really well.
They are. I mean, they are beating teams they should not be beating without their players. So
as is Maryland playing well.
And that's the other thing. It's like a. I don't mind Maryland at home. We just can't beat them there. And then Rutgers is the same way down there. So I mean, we got them both here. With the Ohio State, who's really down this year. I mean, these guys are going to be up and ready to go for that.
For sure.
Honest to God, I mean, I foresee it happening. I really, really do. You get that first day bye that they'll play in games on Wednesday. So you're going in on Thursday. You're going fresh against a second-tier team who most likely you've beaten once. And then, you win that game, and then you take your chances against one of the top 4 teams. Obviously, they've beaten Illinois twice. If it's possibly them. They don't match up well with Purdue, as we well know. Rutgers may still be there, so we don't know. We really don't know what's going to happen, but they're giving it a hell of a try, and it's like, okay, we're back on the train now, and it's like one of those things that's like, okay, everybody's back on. We're not riding a bandwagon, and we're not bandwagon people. I mean, we support these guys throughout the year, but it's like, okay, now it's like, all right, now it's happening again, and hopefully they can capitalize on it.
Yeah, these next two to me, Goon, are just absolutely huge because if you can seize these two games at Ohio State and then home with Rutgers on Sunday evening, then you feel like you have, seized that momentum once again. You clearly have that going for you, and you are right back where you were when you started the 4-game losing streak. You're back to being right on the bubble, if you can take care of business in these next two games and win them. And then again, I think you get yourself, if you close out with two more wins, huge if there. But then I think you get yourself inside the bubble going into the Big Ten tournament. I think more likely, again, you're going to be sitting right there if you can get the win over Maryland, and even with the loss at Northwestern presumed.
It's crazy how good they're playing right now.
Yeah, they
are lighting people. They beat Iowa by 20 points the other night.
Yeah, and it was funny. I there were a lot of people predicting Iowa to win. It's like, man, this is the one team that just matches up well with them, and they can outscore them and all of this. And I think a lot of people, understandably so, were like, hey, they're due for a little bit of a letdown, right? I mean, you've got gigantic wins here for the program over Purdue and Indiana, and it's like, at some point you got to come back to earth a little bit. And instead, I mean, they blew Iowa's doors off, man. Like, I mean, they dominated that game. And, yeah, they are right now, I mean, right at the moment, that they're playing as well as anybody in the conference. Maybe as well as anybody in the country at the moment.
You're not lying. They are playing very, very, very well. I mean, but they're not a team that's going to score 80 a game. And then, like, they dropped 80 on Iowa in, like, a rivalry type of game because there's not much love there. They have their own little backdoor rivalry going on. My God.
And Northwestern is the only team in the conference. The Big Ten Network had that stat the other day that they are the only team in the conference that has not gone through a stretch where they've lost at least 3 out of 4 games in the season. Purdue, of course, just went through that stretch, but every other team in the Big Ten has had one stretch at some point of the season where they've lost 3 of 4. And the only team that has not had that type of a stretch is Northwestern. So it's not just that they're red hot right now, it's that they've been consistently good. Again, arguably more consistently good even than Purdue and Indiana. But these next couple of weeks are still big for a whole lot of teams, really everybody in the Big Ten in terms of jockeying for, Purdue, trying to make sure it stays on that top line right now for the NCAA tournament, and teams like Penn State and Maryland trying to jockey for position and get in. And even Nebraska, I tell you, hats off to Nebraska for the way that team is playing. We talk about the Big Ten any given night.
Yeah.
It is the truth. There is not an easy out, especially on the road in the Big Ten. And, that's why I think you just have to be careful. I know somebody's just like, all right, well, we beat Ohio State, and then I mean, I'm with you. Let's do that. But let's understand that you got to go in and take that game from the Buckeyes still. So
I watched that Maryland,
but there is an opportunity here, and again, that the ebb and the flow of the season is remarkable. But Penn State right now is, with a good week this week, is again right back to where it was before the swoon there and the 4-game losing skid. And I think again. It's going to come down to, in all likelihood, the Big Ten tournament and what kind of noise Penn State can make, and what some other teams that are on the bubble do over these next 2 weeks, and then in their conference tournaments as well. But it's exciting that you're at least in the mix right now for sure. If you're a Penn State basketball fan, your team right now has a realistic and not unreasonable path to get to the big dance this year.
Yeah, I mean, I got to ask you a question. Maryland upsets Purdue Saturday. I don't know what day it was, one of those days. They rushed the court, the students do. I'm like, I called my buddy at Maryland. I was like, dude, you're Maryland basketball. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like Penn State rushing if we beat Michigan. I mean, I guess I don't know. I mean, it's pretty cool to see that it still means that type of stuff. Watching the Maryland, but I mean, Purdue is. I mean, the Big Ten is absolutely jacked, and you are not lying by saying every night it's just like the football. I mean, anybody can beat anybody on any given night in the Big Ten, and basketball has now 1,000,000% turned into that, even more so than football.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, just top to bottom. I mean, one of the lesser known teams is Ohio State. I mean, think about that. I Michigan, they're not up there either. It's like, what
Yeah.
in the hell is going on? That the other, 12 or 14 teams, however the hell many teams are in the Big Ten now, but God. How that's going on. I mean, it's great. I mean, but it's going to make for a hell of a damn tournament, what it's going to do. And I hope that we're part of it. I really, really do. I hope to make a little run there because that's a fun time. I mean, there's nothing better than watching your team play in March. And, you're a wrestling guy. We all know that, but it's still nice to see the basketball team get in the tournament.
It's that's fantastic.
What 2011 was the last time?
Yeah.
Oh Lord, played Temple, right? Played Temple out on the West Coast. It was like they could have just played in Hershey, for God's sakes.
Well, it'll be interesting to see too. Picked the wrong game to go to. We went up Friday night for Penn State hockey against Minnesota, and it was one of those games. It was as if Penn State was in slow motion almost from the get-go. And I don't know. I mean, I know obviously Thon started Friday night too, and congratulations to everybody with Thon, another record-setting effort. But the I won't say the crowd wasn't into it, but it didn't take much to get the crowd out of it. I mean, the students were great, but largely it was a quiet crowd other than the students. And the power play was just absolutely perplexing. I've never really seen anything quite like it, where Penn State seemed intent on not putting any pressure or shots on Minnesota when the Nittany Lions had the power play. It was bizarre. It was like, all right, let's come back to our end, regroup. Let's they must have made, I don't want to exaggerate it, but it felt like there were 5 line changes during the power plays. A lot. It was just a weird, just the whole game. It was just a strange feel. And obviously, I mean, Minnesota is a terrific team. I mean, they've got loaded, future NHL players all over that roster. Pretty much that entire first unit is going to be playing in the NHL in the not too distant future. So
the Saturday one was one that hurt.
Crushing.
Like really, really, really hurt.
Yeah, you thought you had it, and then to not only give up the tying goal, but then to not get the win in the extra time was, and to give up the victory to Minnesota was, that was a bitter pill to swallow.
Yeah, they didn't get that one after the Friday debacle.
Yeah, they came back.
That one Saturday. They came back. They take the lead with a minute, 2 minutes to go, and then they give it up less than a minute, and they lose it. I mean, horrible, sad. Like, come on, But again, you got to take your hat off to Minnesota. I mean, they're the ones.
No,
you saw those kids react, and they all went and slammed their hands against the glass in the student section, and they gave one of these.
Yeah,
it was pretty good, man.
Yep. No, they are. They're
legit.
No question. One of the title contenders this year.
That should
be interesting to see how. Oh yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Damn.
And I'm curious to see how this team responds now to what was a very tough weekend against, again, the best team in the conference this season, and one of the best, if not the best team in the country. And obviously, we'll see how that all plays out in the postseason. But
I wish Alan was here because I want to know how we're 7th in the country but 6th in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things. It's the same.
Are all out of conferences.
It's the same. Yeah, it's the same as but you see it with basketball all the time, where a team's 4th in the conference and can be ranked 3rd in the country if they're, depending on the schedule and everything else that plays into it.
I mean, I like the fact that we're ranked very high nationally. That's not going to help in the Big Ten playoffs, in the Big Ten tournament, but it is what it is. But I mean, that all that means is that you played some very tough out of conference games, and you won some pretty tough out of conference games. So,
yeah.
I mean, again, I know where we're going to go next, but I mean, I'm looking forward to hoops, looking forward to hockey. I mean, it's going to be a fantastic spring or winter and the end of winter sports, but we got to talk about that huge Clarion matchup. Enormous win.
It is one of those. I do like the fact that Penn State is keeping the Pennsylvania roots and is rotating through some of these other Pennsylvania schools.
Correct.
And that, you get Lock Haven on the schedule, you get Clarion, and over the course of a decade period, they'll try to get Pitt and Edinburgh and Bloomsburg and all of that in there, because I do think that's important. I mean, it's certainly not the most important thing in terms of scheduling for Penn State, but I think it is something that is important for the sport and for wrestling in Pennsylvania. You want teams of the other Pennsylvania schools to have that opportunity to watch a Penn State, and it's certainly Penn State as it is right now, when it is the team that most of the country is focused in on.
So, give me Clarion's weekend. Did they go wrestle?
They were in Morgantown Friday night and wrestled West Virginia.
Penn State Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a little trip for them.
Yeah. I mean, it was...
I followed those, like, all the wrestling pages on Facebook and stuff, and it is amazing. Like, the history of Clarion wrestling.
Oh, I mean, the 70s.
It was like, holy shit. I mean, I could not believe it. I'm like, they're like, oh, Clarion University of Pennsylvania had, 3 title contenders and 4 of them, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Now, why is that? Because it wasn't such a spread out nationally? I mean, there was only hotbeds, and that's how good Pennsylvania wrestling was? Yeah,
I mean, there's a great tradition there, and they're trying to build it back. Lock Haven has a great tradition. Lehigh has some terrific teams and individuals from over the years. So, yeah, I mean, wrestling's big in Pennsylvania, and even this Edinburgh, and I was third in the country several years ago, and teams like Bloomsburg have had season individuals. Obviously, Ricky Bonomo, 3-time national champion, but even East Stroudsburg had Jack Kubo.
So
he was a 3-time
champion. Penn State? Did they have some Pennsylvania wrestling division back in the 70s?
Well, it was the Eastern Wrestling League.
So Penn State was part of that with Clarion and Lock Haven?
Yeah, before Penn State joined the Big Ten, Penn State was in the Eastern Wrestling League. So, I think the Nittany Lions are, as per usual under Cal Sanderson, are wrestling their best wrestling of the season at the right time of the year. Get a little confidence boost for the lineup heading into the postseason with that Clarion Duel, and I think that they're in a good frame of mind, which is obviously as important, if not more important, than the physical status of the individuals, is just feeling good, feeling like you're physically and mentally ready to go, and that you can go out and achieve your goals. And I think, it was interesting. I was talking to a friend, was it last night or two nights ago, I think, and we were just talking about, the possibilities. And this is such a fun time of the year if you're a sports fan, college sports fan, because of the possibilities, right? Like, I mean, Penn State basketball could be going to the Sweet 16, might not make the tournament. Penn State hockey could end up in the Frozen Four, might get bounced right away. I think they're pretty solidly in, although we'll have to take care of some business here down the stretch. But, for Penn State wrestling, also, I think there's obviously possibilities here for the Nittany Lions to have point-wise and All-American-wise their best team yet under Cal Sanderson. And listen, I'm not predicting it, not saying it's going to happen.
Please don't.
But I think there are 7 weight classes that, and maybe even 8, but I think pretty definitively 7 weight classes where it is a possibility. You look at the way the guys are wrestling right now and the talent level, and it's like, could that guy get in the finals? And I think at 7 weight classes, you're like, well, yeah, it could. Now, again, let me be very clear. I am not predicting that and not expecting it.
Please no.
But, I think obviously the returning champions, of which there are 4, are certainly capable of getting back to the finals. Greg Kirklead is certainly capable of getting to the finals. And then, I think that the other two that to me are certainly capable, and again, you could argue even 9, but I think both Levi Haynes and Alex Facundo, with the way they are wrestling right now, are going to be right there. Now, I think both have challenging paths to get to the very top. And actually, for that matter, they all do. I mean, Roman Bravo Young has got to defeat Dayton Fix again to get a title. That is not an easy task.
That's very much look forward to, by the way,
yes,
by a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Dayton Fix
Oklahoma
is an absolute phenom. And, I Penn State fans may be taking for granted right now that, well, no, RBY won the last 2 times. We know he's going to win. Again, I certainly think Roman is rightfully the favorite, but Dayton Fix, again, was David Taylor coming out of high school, right? He was the nation's most sought-after recruit, the biggest name, and had the unlike Taylor, had the pedigree in terms of the family connections to make you think that, yeah, this guy is a can't-miss prospect. And, by the way, even if he loses to Roman, you're hard-pressed to say a guy that's been to 4 NCAA finals was a miss. I mean, that is a remarkable accomplishment in and of itself. But, he obviously, Dayton Fix, would be disappointed if he doesn't get a national title to his name during his career. So there is no easy path. But I think with both Alex and Levi, again, Levi's a true freshman coming into a solid weight class. I think especially at the top end. But I think Levi is just I know Levi is a special dude and is, again, going to be in the mix. Quarterfinals in for both those guys, who knows? It's going to be who hits a move here or there. But I just think both are wrestling their best of the season right now, and thus the best of their careers right now. And I think both are in a position to make a serious run. That being said, Shane Van Ness is not very far off, and we keep talking about if he gets that breakthrough victory, and you'd like to see it happen at the Big Ten tournament because then, it helps him with the seeding, obviously, and I think also the conference at the NCAAs. But if he can, get into the top 3 at Big Tens, and obviously if he could win Big Tens, it'd be a huge momentum swing in his favor, and it would shake up the seeds pretty dramatically if he were to win it. But if he can be right in there with Gomez and Sasso, obviously if he can beat one of those guys, all bets are off and he is clearly a title contender. But even if he loses a close one to one of those two and takes third, and again, that's a big if in and of itself. Correct, in Big Tens, that I think he has himself positioned to be a potential dark horse at the NCAA tournament in terms of national title contention. And listen, 149 is 141, excuse me. Bo Bartlett is right there. Real Woods worked to beat him, and I think Bo has taken a significant step forward, maybe a couple, since that meeting with Woods. Now, I watched Woods on Sunday against Okie State. Woods is also continuing to progress, and I haven't seen a whole lot of Alira's, obviously ranked number 1 in the country for Northern Colorado and outstanding in his own right. But I think I think Bo Bartlett is in the mix there as well, so that you probably, you could argue that there are 9 guys that are contending for national titles. Obviously, if you can get 5 into the finals and 2 others on the podium, it's a virtual lock for the national title. There's not going to be any other team with 5 in the finals, and I think very few, if any, will have 7 on the podium. And I think Penn State will likely have at least 5 in the finals, and we'll have I do think Penn State will end up with 9 on the podium here in Tulsa. So we'll see. I do think this this postseason, starting with the Big Ten tournament, is just going to be a lot of fun.
Remember?
Yeah, I think there's as many anticipated bouts as I can remember. And even the guys that you feel are locks don't feel like true locks. Like Yanni Diakomihalis lost to Gomez early in the season, and it was a fairly comfortable win for Gonzalez, or for Gomez. And so, I think that and Gomez he's going to give himself a chance against anybody. He is just such a dynamic wrestler. So yes, I'm expecting Diakomihalis to win the title, but you can't say that if Gomez beats him, it's a shock, right? I mean, Austin Gomez already beat him. I think it was 9-3 in that first meeting this year. And, Spencer Lee obviously is an overwhelming favorite, but I don't think there's many in the wrestling community that would say Pat Glory has no chance, the undefeated wrestler for Princeton, right? And, if he can push it and keep it close, into the third period, again,
I think Spencer's beatable, bud.
Well, yeah. I mean, the majority of people are understandably taking Spencer. And yes, if you put truth serum in me, who am I expecting to win it? Spencer Lee.
Right.
But I don't think it's not that. And nothing's ever given in this sport. But I mean, Aaron Brooks is obviously a heavy favorite, 184, but lost to Marcus Coleman. Parker Kakaisen of Northern Iowa is an outstanding talent. I mean, there's 4 or 5 guys there that you're like, I could see it. I mean, it's not inconceivable that they could beat Brooks and go on and win the title. 197, there's probably at least 5 that you're looking at right now, and maybe as many as 8 that you're saying, if they have a hot tournament and they get the hot hand, they could win the whole thing. There's certainly at least 3 at heavyweight, and up and down. And I just think there's some really intriguing matchups, both at the Big Tens and at the NCAAs, that make this a really fascinating tournament. And listen, one of the storylines, and there is going to be asterisks involved here. If Spencer Lee wins the title, it'll be his 4th national title. But there is going to be an asterisk there. It is 4 national titles in 5 NCAA tournaments.
Decided that yet, or are they going to do they decided the asterisks? But this is the Roger Maris Babe Ruth thing back in the day, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know what the statisticians are going to do, but yes, there will be 4 right now.
Okay, so you go to an arena and you see big flags of those 4 guys. The only 4 times. So he might be on there, and they might put an asterisk, you think?
Well, I mean, there will be. I don't know whether there's going to be a literal asterisk, but yes, working 4 titles in 5 years of eligibility is not the same as winning 4 in 4.
Correct.
Right? And,
yes.
It's going to be the same thing next year with potentially Aaron Brooks and Carter Starace. And Carter will have a chance, if he wants, if he does win this year, and if he wins next year. Huge ifs on both of those fronts, too. 174 is really good at the top, too. And you have some really motivated guys right now. Gunning for Carter Starace. He has a chance to become the first and only 5-time national champion. And obviously there's going to be an asterisk there. I mean, again, I don't know whether there's a literal asterisk, but
I got you.
Cale Sanderson and everybody else that's ever participated in the sport never had that chance. So obviously, it would be a remarkable accomplishment, but it's one that, Vincenzo Joseph never even got to compete in a 4th NCAA tournament. So,
and he had won what, 2? Lost 1. He was 2-1, so he could have gone 3-1. He didn't have that opportunity. I am 1,000,000% with you on that. I had an argument with somebody.
And I don't think it takes away from. I mean, the greatness of Spencer Lee is what it is. The dude will forever be remembered as one of the all-time greats in the sport, and fans will have fun and do have fun, and it's one of the arguments that occurs every year as fans gather at the national tournament. Who's the greatest wrestler you ever saw? And there's 20 names that'll be thrown into the hat, and everybody will fight for their position. And there's no way you can prove anybody wrong. And Spencer is going to be one of the guys that you're going to put on that list of guys that could arguably be the best you ever saw put on a college singlet.
Gable Stevenson's the best heavyweight you ever saw?
I mean, he had the greatest 2 seasons, I would say. Again, Kassar beat him twice. And Kassar, by the way, is an outstanding heavyweight that probably doesn't get his just due in terms of the national scene. Stevenson was a tremendously athletic. I mean, Mako was a completely different style wrestler, certainly not as athletic as Stevenson, but there have been some pretty dynamic, Brock Lesnar, who obviously went into to WWE fame. Kurt Angle was terrific. Kerry McCoy, from a scoring standpoint, I would put him up there with anybody, Stevenson included, in terms of being able to score points at that heavyweight spot. And listen, I mean, I only go back, my memory only goes back to kind of the late 70s. So there have been some other great heavyweights over the years. I hear you.
Got me.
But yeah, I mean, Stevenson is certainly on the short list of guys that you would consider as one of the greatest.
I'm talking about me, who's been really following it now pretty heavy since 16. So, Taylor, Bo. I mean, Kerry was here when I was here. McCoy.
Yeah.
He just didn't seem like a heavyweight to me. He really doesn't. He was not built like one. He was not. He was amazing, is what he was.
He was.
But it is fun going out there. I mean, Stevenson had the name and he had the persona and stuff like that. I mean, do heavyweights get more love? Do you think? A dominant heavyweight, like, wow.
Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily the case in the sport, because there's such an appreciation for heavyweight. Is hard to really dominate, and Stevenson did to a large degree over the last couple of seasons. But and he put up a lot of points for a heavyweight. But I think when you think of the David Taylors or the Cale Sandersons, or going back over the years, the John Smiths and the Kenny Mondays and the Dan Gables.
I remember, and I wasn't even a fan. I wasn't even into it, and I know those names.
Yeah,
that's how big. That's how you cross.
But I think that
pretty cool.
Yeah, I do think this year's tournament has a chance to go down as one of the best, and I think it has a chance too to be remembered. And we won't know this for probably another 5 years or so, but I think you're going to look at the names that were in this tournament, some of whom are not going to win titles this year, but are going to win titles down in the coming years. And I think you're going to look at this year's tournament and say, wow, man, was that a star-studded field of wrestlers that we had. Again, at some of the weight classes, you have guys that, to me, are elite level athletes. And when I talk elite, I mean, I'm not talking national champions. I'm talking guys that are among the national champions, a cut above, and stand out even in that group. And I think there are going to be probably at least 5 or 6 of guys that are, in my mind, that caliber of wrestler that are not going to be national champions this season. Because at a couple of the weights, again, 165 to me is just, and 149 is not far behind if it is behind. Those 2 weight classes, both at Big Tens and at Nationals, to me are just going to be a whole lot of fun to watch, because I really think you have a lot of guys that on any given day, and it's going to be who hits the move or who is able to get the riding time enough in the tiebreaker situation. We're going to have tiebreakers at 149 and 165. I can virtually guarantee it from the quarterfinals in at the Big Tens and probably from the round of 16 in at the NCAA tournament. And there's just not going to be much to choose from there. And it's going to be the guys that just have the resolve. And some of it's going to be a little luck too, right? Like, yeah, I mean, you've got to, if the coin comes up in the tiebreaker and you get to be on bottom first and you get out quick, man, that gives you the upper hand going into the second tiebreaker. So, some of it's going to come down to just a little bit of luck of the draw as well. But I just think, I don't know if it's going to be the best ever, but it is going to be one of the most anticipated ever in terms of individual matchups. That being said, I do think, there's at least a feeling, and I'm sure the folks in Iowa City would disagree, but I think nationally there is a feeling of inevitability in terms of who's going to win the team title. And that's not necessarily a position that I think Cal loves being in, but this team and program has thrived in those situations before, and there's little reason to think that they won't again this time. But there are some other very good teams out there. It's just, I think now with Penn State, with the way the freshmen have come on here at the end of the season, yeah, you have enough margin for error there, right? Like even if, the unthinkable happens and you get, somebody pinned, and Aaron Brooks gets pinned in the opening round, right? In a shocker, he just gets caught in a move. There's enough margin of error there for Penn State that it's just hard to see. I mean, you would have to have 3 or 4 guys fail to come close to the expectations to where their seeds are likely going to be for this team to not win the national title. And again, could that happen? Sure. But it would take a really special effort by probably an Iowa, maybe an Iowa State, maybe in Nebraska that could get in there. I mean, there's only a couple of teams and maybe only one realistically that could catch Penn State, even if Penn State stumbles going into the team race. But I think individually, again, there's a lot of really compelling storylines and really interesting matchups.
So how frustrating must it be? I mean, you grew up watching the Hawkeyes just dominate. And what game won 28 Big Ten titles?
Yep, 21 in a row.
I mean, that's unbelievable. I mean, that's just the groundhog coming out of the ground every year, So imagine being a fan of Ohio State, Michigan, Nebraska, Iowa. Oh, all right. They're gonna take a step back, and then you have 2 freshmen come in and just start dominating. And I saw that they picked up twin kids from Wisconsin this morning.
Yeah, the recruiting pipeline is not exactly slowing down. They have the top recruit for 2024.
5 of the top 10 wrestlers in the country are coming in. It's like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Nick Saban, like, wow, you won a national title. Like, you remember what he said in the NFL, you win a Super Bowl, they give you the last pick in the draft.
Yeah.
You win a national title in college football, they give you the first 5 of the first top 10 players in the country. Like, Jesus. God, that's awesome. That's a testament to Cale and what he has done and his staff too. I mean,
no question.
You made big time mention of that, but Cale gets a lot of credit. But there's a lot of guys involved in all of that. But would you rather have like last year in Detroit where it was already a done deal by the time the final started? I mean, or would you rather have Cleveland, Ohio?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the coaches would tell you they'd rather have the title clinched on Saturday night.
No
there is something to be said for the drama. I that being said, if you have 3 guys if you have a guy in the finals and you have the title clinched, I do think that is a nice situation to be in, where that guy then just can go out and compete for himself without any additional burden. And not that I think those guys are going out. I don't think Bo Nickel was necessarily going out there thinking, all right, I have to win this or we're going to lose the team title, right? Like, he's just going out there, I'm going to wrestle. He was aware of it, and I'm sure it weighed to some degree on him, but I don't think it's something that you're like consciously thinking of when you're out there.
They still won, right? Or the pin The Pin clinched.
They
it.
just needed a win.
A win.
Correct.
He was what? What did he wrestle?
He needed a victory to clinch the.
And there were
title.
2 more bouts after him.
I think there was. I don't remember now if that was the final bout or if there was one after him. I feel like that might have been the final bout. Might not have been. That now I'm forgetting.
But you ever watch the video of it? It's so funny. There's an Ohio State guy in the front row. When Bo goes back, the guy's like, yeah. And you see him like slow motion, like, oh no. And he sits right back down.
Well, there was a lot of that.
As fast as he got up, he got down that fast.
Yeah.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Well, we will be back on Thursday. We'll talk some more.
Yes, we will be here together.
About the upcoming postseason.
Yeah, we'll know a little bit more. We'll have 2 Penn State hoop games. No, Thursday.
Well,
night
we'll be getting ready for a big one in Columbus. Probably break that one down a little bit more, and I won't make a prediction. That is my promise to you.
Okay. We want to talk about some NFL stuff. I mean, we talked the show about Saquon and these guys. I just don't see. We got to talk about how the NFL is set up right now. Yeah, we can also talk little Penn State football and just kind of the importance here of this offseason and what we both think that team has to do between now and next September to get where I think many now are hoping and expecting in some cases this team to be at the end of next year, which is 3 weeks away from spring practice start.
Yeah.
God almighty.
Blue-white game will be here before you know it.
I just threw up in my mouth a little bit just thinking about the word blue-white or thinking about the word spring practice.
Understood. We thank you for joining us today. We will be back on Thursday. Until then, be good and be safe.